Get him out! Dr. Marcus Webb's voice boomed through the trauma bay. His accusatory finger pointed at the elderly janitor who had stepped past the yellow safety line. This is an active emergency. What the hell are you doing? The old man, thin and stooped in his faded hospital uniform, held up his hands in a placating gesture. Doctor, I can help. Help? Webb let out an incredulous laugh, his hands still covered in the soldier's blood. You're a janitor. This man is bleeding out. Unless you have an MD I don't know about, get out. The Marine on the table gasped, his eyes rolling back. The monitors shrieked. Time was running out. The old man's voice remained calm, almost eerily so. The subclavian. You're missing the subclavian artery. Webb spun around. What did you just say? The entry wound. It's riding high. The bleeder isn't where you're looking. It's posterior, tucked behind the clavicle. You need to— I don't need advice from someone who mops floors, Webb snapped. Security! Remove this man immediately. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. They moved toward the old janitor, their hands reaching for his arms. That's when everything changed. Walter Reed National Military Medical Center was one of the nation's most prestigious military hospitals. Every year, thousands of wounded soldiers pass through these doors. Training accidents, combat injuries, complex surgeries, the best doctors, the latest technology, the highest survival rates. Dr. Marcus Webb was a shining example of that prestige. At 34, a trauma surgery specialist, Johns Hopkins graduate, 2 tours in Afghanistan under his belt. He was confident, perhaps too confident. Tonight, at 2:47 a.m., that confidence was shaken. The young Marine, 22-year-old Lance Corporal David Martinez, was a victim of a training accident, chest wound, arterial bleed. Should have been routine. But it wasn't. The bleeding wouldn't stop. Every compression, every clamp, every desperate intervention was failing. Webb was baffled, his team was panicking, and time was running out. The security guards touched the old janitor's arms, but before they could move him, a voice rose from the other side of the room. Wait. It was Sandra Mills, head trauma nurse, a 25-year veteran, a master of trauma nursing. She was now looking at the old man, her brow furrowed. Thomas? Your name is Thomas, right? The old man, Thomas Rivera, nodded. Sandra turned to the security guards. Wait a minute, then to Webb. Doctor, maybe we should listen. Webb couldn't believe it. Sandra, are you kidding? This man, Sandra interrupted, her voice calm but authoritative, works here every night for 3 years, and I've noticed him. At every trauma case, he stops, watches, never speaks, but his eyes, they know. Webb's face flushed. No? Sandra, this patient's life dropping to 70 over 40, a nurse shouted. Doctor, we need to decide. Webb froze. He looked at Martinez's pale face, at his team's panicked eyes, then at Thomas. The old man stood there, calm, motionless, blue eyes focused on the surgeon's hands. Did you say subclavian artery? Webb asked slowly. Thomas nodded. Entry wound is high, near the clavicle. Arterial anatomy, in a young male, the angle is steeper. It wraps posterior. You can't reach it with standard dissection. You need to elevate the clavicle, retract it. Silence filled the room. Only the shriek of monitors. Webb's mouth opened, closed. Those terms, those anatomical details, shouldn't come from a janitor. Who are you? Webb whispered. Thomas's eyes flickered for a brief moment, looking to a distant place, then returned. That doesn't matter right now. We need to save this kid. It was a decision point. Webb looked, really looked, at the old man, at the lined face, at the calm demeanor, and at his arms. Under the faded uniform sleeves, very faint, almost invisible, was a tattoo, a military symbol, combat medic insignia. Webb's breath caught. Sandra, he said quietly, suit him up, sterile gown, gloves, mask, now. Sandra didn't hesitate. She pulled Thomas aside, quickly prepped him. Within 2 minutes, Thomas stood beside the table in sterile green. Webb stepped back. Show me. Thomas leaned in. His hands, though they appeared old and trembling, touched Martinez's chest. He palpated the wound area, delicate, methodical. "Here," he said quietly. "Do you feel it? The gap in the pulse, just behind the clavicle." Webb followed. His fingers traced Thomas's, and there it was, a faint pulse, missed. "My God," Webb whispered. "You're right." Thomas stepped back. "You need a retractor, wide angle, clavicular elevation, then direct visualization, clamp and suture, 4-0 proline." Webb nodded, repeated the orders. His team sprang into action, supplied the instruments. Webb dove into the operation, following Thomas's instructions. 5 minutes, 10, 15. Then, "Got it, clamp in place, passing suture." The monitors stabilized. Blood pressure began rising. Martinez's pale face gained a little color. "No, no." "Yes," Sandra whispered, tears in her eyes. Pulse strengthening. The room collectively exhaled. The tension broke. The team looked at each other, disbelieving. Webb finished the suture, stepped back, chest soaked in sweat. He pulled off his mask, turned to Thomas. How did you know this?" Thomas slowly removed his mask. His face was tired but peaceful. "Because I've done this hundreds of times, in Vietnam, from 1968 to 1971, with the 5th Special Forces Group. I was a combat medic." Everyone in the room froze. Sandra's voice cracked. You're a Vietnam veteran?" Thomas nodded. "From age 22 to 25, 3 tours. Khe Sanh, Hue, a Shao Valley, no doctors, no equipment, just hands and instinct, and too much blood." Webb stumbled backward. But why are you cleaning here? Why?" "Because," Thomas said quietly, "when I came back from the war, no one recognized a medic's credits, no college, no certification, no formal training, just battlefield experience. The American Medical Association didn't count it. So I found other work, and being here, in a military hospital, felt like home." Sandra put her hand to her mouth, tears streaming. Webb shook his head, a mix of shock and shame. "You saved hundreds of lives," Webb whispered, "and we saw you as a janitor." Thomas shrugged. "It doesn't matter. I did." "It matters," Webb interrupted, voice cracking. "It matters so much. You saved this kid's life today. I couldn't. My team couldn't. You did." The room was silent. Thomas bowed his head. Then a sound came from Martinez, weak, hoarse. "Thank you." Everyone turned. The young Marine had opened his eyes, clouded with shock and medication, but conscious. Thomas leaned down with a soft smile. "You're welcome, soldier. You're going to be fine." Martinez's hand weakly touched Thomas's arm, the tattoo, the combat medic insignia. He recognized it. You're one of us," Martinez whispered. Thomas nodded. "Yes, always was." The next morning, the hospital administration conference room was packed. Senior doctors, administrators, even the chief medical officer, Colonel Sarah Hendricks, was there. Sandra Mills was there, and in the middle, in simple civilian clothes, sat Thomas Rivera. Colonel Hendricks stood. "Mr. Rivera, what happened last night was extraordinary. I received a full report from Dr. Webb. You performed an unauthorized intervention. Technically, that's a violation." Thomas nodded, silent. Hendricks continued. "But also, you saved a life, and the skill set you used to do it is remarkable. Commander, please tell us about your background." Thomas told the story, in detail. The tent hospital at Khe Sanh, field surgeries in a Shao, operations performed without doctors, without anesthesia, with only morphine and the raw wisdom of battlefield medicine. The room was spellbound. When he finished, Hendricks spoke. "Mr. Rivera, I want to offer you something. This hospital will recognize your experience, formalize your medical credentials, and offer you a position, senior medical consultant in the trauma department. Not a doctor, but an instructor, mentor. You'll teach young doctors. Like Dr. Webb, the things they can't learn from books. Thomas's eyes filled with tears. I accept. Applause erupted. Sandra hugged him. Dr. Webb gripped his hand firmly. I'm sorry, Webb whispered. I judged you. I dismissed you. Thomas nodded. Everyone makes mistakes, son. The question is, what did you learn? Webb smiled. I learned that wisdom doesn't wear a uniform, and that the greatest teachers sometimes stand in the quietest corners. Months passed. Thomas Rivera became one of Walter Reed's most respected figures. Young doctors lined up to learn from him, to hear his Vietnam stories, to learn field medicine, to understand how to save lives when technology and equipment weren't available. And Lance Corporal David Martinez? He recovered fully, returned to service. And when he graduated, the first thing he did was return to Walter Reed. He found Thomas in a corridor. The old man, now wearing a gray consultant coat, was speaking with a resident. Mr. Rivera. Martinez stopped, stood at attention. Thomas smiled. David, how are you, son? Martinez extended his hand. He held a small, worn badge, a combat medic badge, his own. This is yours, he said, voice trembling. You saved me. Now I'm going to save others, and I'll carry this in your honor. Thomas took the badge. It felt heavy, loaded with memories. He held it, then extended it back to Martinez. No, he said softly. You carry this. You earned it. But remember, the badge doesn't make you a hero. Service does, sacrifice, and the willingness to put others before yourself. Martinez nodded, tears streaming. He took the badge. Because true heroism doesn't come with uniforms. It serves in silence. Thomas Rivera's story reminds us, true wisdom is sometimes found in the most unexpected places. And the greatest heroes are often the invisible ones. Like, subscribe, and share, because every veteran deserves respect. Have you ever overlooked someone only to learn their true talent? Share below. We honor silent heroes. Remember, true heroes serve quietly.